group, Cyclox. Morning, Talia. I've got to pop over the screen to see because I'm too short. Now, you've been telling us what you feel about the proposed zone, but tell everybody else, please, how are you feeling about the idea?
Yeah, thank you, Sophie, for having me on. So I think what we've got to remember is, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but the Royal College of Physicians brought out a report today that said air pollution is killing 500 people a week in the UK, and it costs the country more than £500 million a week as well. And in Oxford, we've got this toxic air, and we're breathing it. Everybody's breathing it, whether they're a car driver or a cyclist or a pedestrian, and we're all pedestrians at some stage. And it's a health crisis. So we've got the health crisis, we've got gridlock in Oxford, and there's no real attractive alternatives. If you get the bus, it's too slow. If you get the car, you're stuck in traffic, and if you cycle, you get stuck in traffic as well. So something has to be done, and we're really pleased that Oxfordshire County Council has made this bold move to actually do something about this.
Now, when we talk about this and talk about getting in our cars and get out of our cars, onto bikes and onto buses, a lot of people say, but I can't. You know, they don't run early enough, they don't go where I want, they take 2 hours in 2 different buses. You know, did you understand that not everybody, I think a lot of people would like to, but just are not able to do that, to jump on it, you know, a bike or on a bus?
Absolutely, and so it is difficult, but obviously if you can't get on a bus, it's because there isn't a bus there isn't a decent service, it's getting stuck in traffic. All of those things could be addressed if, and we're really going to hold Andrew's feet to the fire on this, if the money that is raised from this congestion charge is used to support active travel, to help to subsidise buses, to put in more bus routes, then you overcome a lot of those things.
Andrew, you're nodding. This is what you're promising, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is what we would want to do. It's also the law. You know, money raised from traffic management schemes of this kind has to be reinvested into transport priorities. So yes, things like park and rides, more infrastructure, that kind of thing, yeah.
The idea, though, of, let's pluck an idea, having to go to an appointment at the JR hospital, yeah, but also having to get your child from school and then go to and from work. You know, these kind of things that are real life, you know, that people are dealing with this on a daily basis. You know, it's not as easy as making space for 2 hours to theoretically, you know, get on a bus. Someone from Whitney told us just the other day that it took them 2 hours to get to the hospital.
Exactly, and that makes my point. Look at the situation around the hospital now. Does anybody really think that is satisfactory or sustainable? It's absolute Armageddon around the hospitals. You know, you get people turning up an hour and a half early to try and find a space. You know, what we are trying to do is use finite space more sensibly, particularly around the medical estates up in Headington. That's exactly what this proposal is designed to do. And it contains exemptions for people with regular medical appointments, for carers, for less mobile patients, so that they will be able to access those facilities, where at the moment they get stuck in congestion. It all comes down to this basic, simple problem.
All right, well, thank you so much, Talia, for coming into the studio. We're also going to talk business, which I mentioned there, and the Oxford Business Action Group. Also on the show this morning, Emily Scaysbrook is from the group and also owns Hoyles on the High Street. Morning, Emily.
Morning.
How are you feeling about these proposals?
I'm not going to say, just even the comments just now from Talia are frustrating, if
Why?
I'm honest. I mean, the proposals more generally, I would love to be doing anything else other than concentrating my time on travel. Like, I have a business to run, there's so many exciting things that I want to be doing in my business. This is not that, but this is so unfair and unjust. I feel compelled to. It will affect so many businesses, so many residents. This isn't just about me. We're really fortunate that a lot of our customers are tourists. We will probably be okay personally as this one business if these go ahead, but there's so many businesses who won't be, and I think it's disgusting, the plans that are in place. I mean, even just Talia's comments just now are either ignorant or disingenuous. So she says that air pollution apparently is terrible everywhere in Oxford, and that just is not true. It's bad at certain times of day, at certain times of year, in certain locations, and dare I say it, one of those locations, St Clement's. The Oxford Bus Company's managing director, Luke Marion himself, has acknowledged that it's the LTNs to blame in that area, and that they have, and I quote, slowed bus journey times, and that they have created the traffic jams during peak hours that previously didn't exist. And I would suggest that perhaps they might consider redesigning those LTNs, perhaps making some of the worst offenders one way, and that alone would relieve the congestion in East Oxford. I should also say that I think it's disgusting that they're planning on putting in place this scheme now before they put in place the proposal that they have for the buses that will address some of the issues that some people currently driving face in getting into Oxford. It is totally wrong to put in place sticks like this before carrots. You should be introducing the buses that you want to see, that you think will help people first, not putting in place punitive schemes that are going to cost some people more than £1,500 a year before you then introduce the buses that are going to help them.
All right, Emily, let me get Andrew's response on that. There's a lot in there, Andrew.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses are... No, don't apologise. It's your opinion. This is the whole point to get Andrew into the studio.
Okay.
But a lot of businesses are telling us they're angry about this. They feel punished.
Well, just to pick up a few of the points there, I mean, Tyler's sitting alongside me now. I don't think it's appropriate to use the word ignorant in relation to the comments that she made. She was quoting a report from the Royal College of Physicians, which is obviously a legitimate thing to do. The latest survey data told us that 90% of people in the city centre have arrived by non-car modes. That is how a historic city centre works best. But the point about the LTNs, our policy to deal with congestion is the traffic filters. That is what we want to do. That is what we will do. And everybody knows why those have been delayed. But the final point, and this is the really important one, is that what Emily said there, and I'll thank her for her contribution to this, is why don't you improve the buses first? And this is what I find so frustrating to get this, even from, nominally sensible senior elected politicians, is this idea that this is somehow you can do one without the other. How do you think we make the buses better? Listen to the bus companies, listen to Mr. Marion. We have to reduce congestion. That is the thing that is holding buses up. We had a cabinet member from the city council at the meeting on Tuesday saying, don't do this, but instead improve the buses. You improve the buses by reducing congestion. That is what we are going to do.
Now, one of the things that Emily mentioned there and has been brought up repeatedly to us as well is, why now? Why not wait till the Botley Road is reopened? We know how hard that Botley Road closure has hit local businesses.
Well, again, don't ask me. Ask Luke Marion, the managing director of the Oxford Bus Company. He said congestion is at emergency levels. We have been waiting for the Botley Road to reopen, ever since Network Rail closed it in 2023 and told us it was going to be for 7 months. We've had repeated delays to this. The traffic filters is still our policy to bring that in when the Botley Road reopens, but with the latest revision to that opening date, it was made very clear to us that we cannot wait by the City Council, by the bus companies, so that is what we're doing now. So the answer to your question of why now is because the bus companies told us they need to do that. The electric buses, this wonderful fleet of emission-free silent buses that are now driving around our cities, they are absolutely tied in business terms to the delivery of 10% improvements in bus times. And this is another thing that politicians who oppose this scheme just simply ignore. What happens to that commitment? What do they think happens to this, this multi-million-pound investment that we have attracted into Oxford to deliver these schemes? What do they think happens if we simply ignore the business case that underpins that? This needs to be done, and it needs to be done now.
Well, also on terms of businesses are the stuff that the businesses need that often get delivered on the back of a lorry. Steve has got a question about the lorry exemptions.
Well, on the next few guys, delivering out of Oxford on a daily basis. I mean, is a lorry exempt for that? They deliver it, or are they going to have to pay a congestion charge every time they go in?
So all lorry drivers exempt? Yep. No, nothing that's going to catch them out here?
Correct. Their life will be vastly easier.
All right.
And traders using, vans, and indeed people using a car as a goods vehicle. The example that was often used is somebody like a mobile hairdresser, for example, driving instructors, people like that. Their lives will be vastly better.
All right, we have plenty more to talk about. Andrew's staying with us for half an hour on the hot seat here at BBC Radio Oxford.